This video is sponsored by Grammarly, your personal digital writing assistant. What is going on, everyone? Jason here, and today we're doing a comparison of two of the most popular phones made by two of the largest companies in the smartphone game. We'll be pitting the fan favorite Apple iPhone 12 against the newly designed Samsung Galaxy S21. Now, both of these phones are interesting for a couple reasons. First, though flagships within their own right, they're both part of that new entry-level flagship segment of the smartphone market, and they both share a starting price tag of $799 US. Moreover, both Apple and Samsung brought design overhauls to their newest offerings, and given that they both look fantastic, I think it's fair to say that the rivalry between these two giants is as fresh as ever. So today I'm going to be doing a side-by-side comparison focused on core features to ultimately help you decide which one is better for you. Now, before we jump in case you're new here, I'm Jason. I would really appreciate it if you give this video a thumbs up. It really does help me out. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're a tech junkie like me, so you don't miss out on any future reviews. And look, this might be a loaded question, but before I get into all this, which phone do you think is better? Fair warning, it might get a bit dicey down there, but go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Okay, first let's talk physical design, and let's start with the Galaxy S21. Samsung went with a bold new look, and I'll be honest, I wasn't too sure about it when the leaks first came out. But after having the phone for a few weeks, I actually really love this new design. The two-tone contrast between the phone's body and the frame and the camera housing looks particularly good in this Phantom Violet colorway, and I love the wraparound design with the camera with the frame. It's bold, unapologetic, and it gives the phone a refined yet aggressive look and feel. Both the back panel and the front of the camera housing have a matte finish, which not only looks great when the phone catches the light, but is also great at keeping the phone clean from fingerprints. Another thing I love about the S21 are the dimensions. It's the smallest variant of the three S21s launched this year, but to me I see it as the most ideal size for most consumers. It's comfortable to hold and operate with one hand, and you don't really sacrifice screen size with this extremely immersive 6.2-inch display. It's extremely clean with only a single hole punch for the front-facing camera, and an in-display fingerprint sensor, and the S21 still has an IP68 dust and water resistance certification. Now look, let's not even tiptoe around the main issue of the S21's design. This phone is made out of plastic. And I know that can almost derail every other good thing I just said about this phone, but hear me out, the polycarbonate back really isn't as bad as it sounds. Yes, you'll definitely know it's plastic once you get it into your hands, but it has a finish that doesn't make it look bad at all. And honestly, most people put cases on their phones, so it really shouldn't matter that much. At the end of the day, the S21 is a great looking phone that has a well thought out design and limitations that I think most people that give this phone a shot will get over pretty quickly. Now when it comes to the iPhone 12, it has Apple's new industrial design with a completely flat frame, flanked by glass on both the front and back, clearly boasting the more premium build material than the S21. I personally love this refined look, and true to Apple form, this phone is built to extremely high standards of quality. The glass melts into the frame without any seams, and the matte finish on the colored aluminum frame is masterfully executed. I will say though that I'm getting sick of the glossy back. It's virtually impossible to keep this phone clean for longer than 2 seconds. I much prefer the frosted glass panels that are on the Pro models. Now my favorite part of the iPhone 12 are the dimensions. It's smaller than last year's iPhone 11, making it easier to operate in one hand, but maintains the same display size with these smaller bezels, giving you a way more ergonomic device without paying for it in user experience. The phone also feels fantastic in the hand. Again, most people put cases on their phone, so this likely won't matter too much, but it's noticeably more pleasant when compared to the S21. It also has an IP68 dust and water resistance certification, and a new MagSafe capability, which is a first for the iPhone. To me, when it comes to overall quality and physical design, I have to say the iPhone 12 is the winner here. It's just a better built phone all the way around, but I do give huge kudos to Samsung for being more bold and ambitious with their direction. The S21 is still a fantastically designed phone that deserves a lot of recognition. Now before we jump into the next tier of comparison, I want to give a huge shout out to Grammarly, today's video sponsor. Okay, so one of the underrated hardest parts of being a YouTuber is doing a ton of writing. I'm constantly writing scripts, trying to reply to as many comments as I can, and I feel like I'm dealing with what seems like a never-ending stream of emails. And one of the easiest ways that I can make sure I'm sounding professional and not making any grammatical errors is by using Grammarly. Grammarly's digital writing assistant helps more than 30 million people be more effective and impactful with their writing, and is the recipient of both the Most Loved and Best Feature Set Trust Radius Awards in 2021. Grammarly gives folks like myself assistance when it comes to basic spelling and grammar checks, something that's totally free by the way, but if you're writing a ton for school or for business and want to be as productive as possible, you can upgrade to Grammarly Premium and get advanced support such as vocabulary and formatting suggestions, tone adjustment recommendations, and even full sentence rewrites using Grammarly's Clarity AI technology. Hands down, the main reason why I love Grammarly so much is just how easily it integrates into the programs that I use every day. all you have to do is download Grammarly's free browser extension, and Grammarly will automatically start to assist live while in your most used applications like Gmail, Google Docs, etc. It really couldn't be easier. Grammarly has helped me be way more efficient with my time, and it's really made me a better writer because it actually explains why there's an error or a better way of phrasing something, instead of just vaguely underlining something with a red or green squiggle. If you guys want to check out all that Grammarly has to offer, you can download the free browser extension and take advantage of Grammarly's free features by going to grammarly.com/JSL. Plus, if you use that address to sign up, you can also get 20% off Grammarly Premium, which is pretty awesome. See firsthand why Grammarly is loved by so many. Link to get started is in the description below. Okay, next, let's talk about the piece of hardware that you interact with the most, the display. And let's start with the Galaxy S21. The S21 is equipped with a 6.2-inch dynamic AMOLED display that comes in at a resolution of 2400 by 1080. Now yes, for those keeping score at home, the display on the S21 is actually lower in resolution than last year's S20 model, which I know is going to bother some folks out there, but don't get it twisted, this is still a fantastic display. Samsung has been an industry leader in display technology, and the one on the S21 is a representation of why. The display is bright, colors are punchy and saturated, you get great contrast, and consuming HD content is still extremely enjoyable on this phone. It's also a completely flat panel which makes it easier to operate, and it's super immersive with this edge-to-edge design. By far the best feature when talking about display has got to be the adaptive 120Hz refresh rate, which gives users this buttery smooth user experience when navigating around the phone. It's a night and day difference if you're coming from a 60Hz panel, and Samsung did a really good job of having the S21 use a high refresh rate most of the time, and clocking it down when you don't really need it in order to save on battery life. Now the iPhone 12 is rocking a 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display made by the rival LG, and this too is a beautiful panel. It edges out the S21 in terms of resolution, coming in at 2532 by 1170, and also has this immersive edge-to-edge design. The display can get really bright, does great with color accuracy, and you get really good contrast with those inky blacks. When compared side by side, you'll see that the resolution difference is virtually indistinguishable given how small these panels are. I did notice that the display on the iPhone bumps up the exposure and the shadows when viewing HDR content. It's noticeably more uniform, while the S21's display prioritizes contrast. It comes down to preference as they both look fantastic, but I do prefer the way Samsung calibrated their panel. It gives the picture a more dynamic look. The iPhone's display is also clocked at a traditional 60Hz refresh rate, which is a bit of a letdown as we're all hoping for a ProMotion display, and even though you do get used to it, there's still a big notch on this phone, something that most modern phones have gotten rid of. At the end of the day, to me, Samsung is the clear winner when talking about display. It's an extremely well integrated piece of hardware that not only looks great, but is a joy to use and interact with. And even though there's nothing inherently wrong with the iPhone 12's display, there's nothing really exciting about it either. Okay, next let's talk about general features and overall performance between the S21 and the iPhone 12. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit and talk about storage. The base model iPhone 12 still comes with a measly 64GB of internal storage, critically low in my opinion for 2021 standards, and is a clear loser to the S21's standard 128GB starting point. When it comes to biometric security measures, you have Apple's Face ID system on the iPhone 12. Now I'm personally a huge fan of Face ID. I choose it over any other current security measure available today because it's super safe and the least intrusive from a user standpoint, but the updated in-display fingerprint reader on the S21 is pretty nice. The sensor is larger and the authentication process is a bit faster, and it does make current life a lot easier given that most of us are in masks all day. That said, this one really comes down to preference. You do have to pay for Face ID with the notch, a price I'm willing to pay, but I understand not everyone is going to be as forgiving as I am. When it comes to processing speeds, both the S21 and the iPhone 12 are packing the most advanced processors in the market, the S21 with the blazing fast Snapdragon 888, and the beastly A14 Bionic for the iPhone 12. Both provide users with a smooth, lag-free user experience, and though historically iPhones do tend to do better with longevity, it's too early to say so definitively in this case, and both can handle virtually anything you throw at it for the here and now. They both can support 5G, which is good from a future-proofing standpoint, both can support fast charging and wireless charging, and both have pretty good battery life. I've been getting around 7 hours of screen on time for both, and I can comfortably get through a day of moderate use with either phone without needing to charge. Now unfortunately, they both don't come with charging bricks in the box, which really should be a minus for both, probably a little bit more for Apple for starting this trend. But the last area of performance that I want to make sure that I talk about are the cameras. From a hardware perspective, the S21 edges out the iPhone here as it does have 4 cameras total while the latter has only 3. When taking a look at the selfie cameras, they do a really good job of outputting sharp, vibrant stills, and both have shown improvement with their ability to process portrait mode photos. It's going to come down to color preference on which one you prefer. Samsung does boost the saturation more and adds a bit more contrast, while the selfies coming on the iPhone come off a bit more natural and not as processed. When it comes to video, both cameras can shoot in 4K, and the quality here is pretty fantastic. Kudos to the S21 for really closing the gap here. The video looks outstanding. The iPhone's footage to me is still slightly better, particularly with the way it manages colors and dynamic range. And that's not a stab at the S21, because no one is beating the iPhone in this arena anytime soon. Now when it comes to the cameras on the back, the S21 in addition to having a primary wide angle and ultra wide camera, it also has a 64 megapixel telephoto zoom, giving it the more traditional flagship camera suite. And when it comes to photo quality comparison, both the S21 and the iPhone 12 pump out some of the best photos coming out of any phone right now. I would say the main difference is that the S21 again looks like there's more baked in processing after the shutter is hit. It makes the photo look more vibrant and eye-catching, but sometimes at the expense of image sharpness. Both do an incredible job with dynamic range, the iPhone just a tad better and a bit more natural. When it comes to video, it's going to be extremely difficult to compete against what the iPhone 12 is bringing to the table. It can now shoot in 4K Dolby Vision HDR at up to 30 frames per second, which is an absurd feature to have on a phone, and the footage it's able to produce is exemplary. I've always said that the iPhone's true boast to how powerful it is lies in its ability to shoot this level of video on a sensor this small, and the video quality coming out of this phone is the best coming out of any phone, period. Now with that bold statement, what the S21 can do in terms of video is actually extremely impressive. Not to be outshined, it too leverages the power that it has to allow users to shoot in a ludicrous 8K resolution at 24 frames per second, and the footage is pretty insane. You get an incredible amount of detail, and the focus issues Samsung has had in the past have gotten a lot better. That said, the 8K video isn't the most stable when shooting in a wider angle, but the 4K footage is also pretty damn good. It's to me the only phone that's getting closer to what the iPhone can do, and dude, that's saying a lot. At the end of the day, in my opinion, the overall camera performance on the iPhone 12 is better, but Samsung continues to show improvement in this area, and the S21 isn't too far behind. And really, you're not going to go wrong by going with either of these phones. At $799, they're bringing a ton of value to the table, and I'm glad that both Samsung and Apple are making them more accessible to the general consumer public. All said, I do personally think that the iPhone 12 is slightly better overall. It's a more polished, refined phone both from a design and usability standpoint, and I just feel like I'm getting more for my money. Now it's important to note that I am a self-described moderate Apple fanboy, so take my opinion with a huge grain of salt and let me know which phone you guys would go with in the comments below. Okay, that's about it for this review. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up if you guys found it useful. Again, I'd really appreciate it. Check out these dedicated reviews of both the iPhone 12 and the S21 if you're looking for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.